hard. That's right. Wait, we're dicking around again. We're here to talk about gods.
We're getting there. Chatwater. We're getting there today.
We're here. We're arrived.
We're here. We're getting
gods.
there.
Ioun.
Well, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Corn. Pablo.
So I know.
Melora.
Yes, we talked about. Yes. You're
Paladin.
Good. No.
Iceman.
Well, I mean, Callie now, apparently.
Callie might be a god now.
No, that's not how paladins work. But anyways, take it away. Emma, take the reins.
So probably a little bit of preamble that might be important for everyone to know about, like, what the gods are like on the world of Teris in the universe that Tim has created is Tim has taken a lot of stuff from 5th edition and also 4th edition as well. So a lot of the lore from it. The Dawn more specifically, like some of it comes from 4th edition. And Tim and I were chatting about it today, and he said it was a really interesting jumping off point about how the gods and humanity interacted with each other kind of as the world was created. And religion is quite prominent on Wolfar, at least, and it differs from continent to continent how prominent religion is, but on Wolfar particularly, it's quite big. And the thing I really love about the way that the gods and religion works in this universe is that the gods are close. So, like, the gods, while divine, draw a lot of, not necessarily from like direct worship of them, but that their existence is almost contingent on the connection with those who follow them. So the people who are, worshiping them or having them as their patron, that has to be present for them to exist. So if they don't have followers, we don't exist anymore. And the other thing I really like about the way that religion is structured in here is that gods can die and can be eliminated, and no longer present regardless of who follows them or not, which is kind of cool. So yeah, so that's like, yeah, go ahead, Yanis.
So it's kind of like the like American Gods. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that Neil Gaiman book, where it's like literally they're contingent on people believing in them, and they sort of wax and wane depending on who and what sort of faith.
Yeah.
Very
that
cool.
Kind of system of like the old gods and the new gods. And I think that in essence, there isn't really an old god. There's kind of an old gods, new gods system in Teris, but not really in that hierarchical structure. It's just a matter of like who was worshipped once, what happened to them, and then now who is worshipped in different ways. So I thought I know we talked a little bit about religion with respect and like the gods with respect to the calendar when we did our episode with about the world of Teris and the calendar that I created, but I thought I would be able to dish you a little bit more information on each god specifically, how they relate on the continent of Wolfar, and what we know about them. Mm-hmm. And then from there, we're going to talk about, I'm just looking at my notes here, we're going to talk about the Dawn War and the adventures in Amun-K that kicked off the Dawn War, and what happened before it, after it, and kind of how it left the world, which is a nice preamble too. All that kind of stuff. And I know we've been talking about the Dawn War a lot, and Sean was like, we've been saying Dawn War like we know what it means, but now we're going to know what it means. So it's good. Yeah. So tell me what you know about Seleun. Or Sehanine, as she's also known.
Well, Seleun Sehanine is a god.
Yes.
Good.
She's a goddess. Yes.
Hell yeah. So what we're going to do is here's the thing. Because like, we don't say actress anymore. It's just actor, regardless. Yeah. I feel like we can just go god, right?
Sure.
Right?
We could probably use pronouns and how they're referenced in the literature, if that makes sense.
Because like, oh, well, here's the question. Is it like lioness versus lion? Because I guess it's what they are versus their profession. Because actor is profession. Because no one comes at lions being like, we should call them all lions, because calling them lionesses versus lion is a very useful distinction because of lack of mane and like hunting tactics.
Yes, and jobs
versus actors in the just do the job regardless. Yeah, okay, I'm fine with goddess. Okay, so yes. I just had to go down.
I love it. Let's work through it. We're gonna work through it.
We do call cats and dogs just cats and dogs, but that's beyond the point.
but like who? But that's the difference between lions and cats and dogs. Like if you've got like, oh, it's a good boy. Oh, actually, it's a good girl. Like I wouldn't have known. Like it's not like female dogs are like, aside from like making puppies, are like gonna like, oh, watch out, that's a female dog, they're gonna spit acid. Like we should probably have a term for female platypi because they're the ones that can kill you with their back pinkies. You know what I mean?
This is true.
Like
this is
I
very
don't
true.
need any new information for dogs or cats, but like
Okay, I'm
something
putting
like
this on future
but
discussions.
you know, we got peacocks versus peahen. That's right.
Yes.
The entire species isn't called peacocks. It's called peafowl. You didn't know
Yes, it
that,
is.
but
I
now
did
you
not.
do.
That's
We have
I know.
divulged into birds, so we're gonna get
Well,
back
that's
to
what Saloon does. Saloon is the god of birds, specifically peafowl. Yes, she is. Give me my time. No, Saloon is the god of the moon.
Yes.
And she is very goes with the flow. She's a water sign. She is the patron of like beat poetry and moonshine, like sort of a like artisanal gin. She's like a big patron of what's it starts like with a B and it sounds French. Everyone smokes there. I forget the name, but like cool jazz bars. Some blue
Like the
lingerie.
bourgeoisie?
No. It's like a place you go. It starts with a B and everyone's smoking. It's very sexy in French. Saloon is very sexy in French. She can often
Sexy
be
in
depicted
French.
in just like a very striped, horizontal striped, black and white, long sleeve shirt,
Wearing a beret, of course.
wearing a beret and reciting her. I don't know. You tell me about Saloon. She is of the moon. She is of the moon
Yes.
and beat poetry. I do know that for a fact.
So Saloon is an elven goddess, depicted as female. She is the goddess of the moon and also the goddess of autumn. So that's kind of her two domains in this universe. She's one of the patron gods of Fawe-Tavar, the elven city. There's a very large temple to her in Ellery in the Marinora archipelago. I know that. And her symbol is a pair of eyes surrounded by 7 stars. So that is her, kind of her thing, and that's what we would know about her in the literature. We haven't had much interaction with Saloon. We know that Kokanee saw a statue of her in the Alderdon Woods, and then we were in one of her in the Tomb of the Raven Queen. She was the very first room that we went into, and it was the trick with that room was that we could only travel through it if we were completely in the dark. If we had any light on, we would have kept going for forever. But because we traveled it in the dark, we were able to work our way through. So that's Saloon.
Tight.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me about Corellin. And also, Yanis, please feel free to jump in too.
Corellin loves a gamble. That's what Corellin loves. Fuck, no, that's Tiddlywinkies. Corellin is Corellin's the pretty one. He's K-pop.
Yes.
Yes. Corellin is the god of K-pop, which I think is also elven in our universe canonically. Corellin is like, oh yeah, he's like about trees and he has a big bow and arrow, probably. And Corellin is like very handsome. And every time he's depicted, he is depicted shirtless. Now, as an Easter egg in all his depictions, all of his like artists will include a shirt that has recently been discarded, and so like that's just the joy of being
over
like
the shoulder.
No, it's not. No, there's no cloth may touch his chest.
No,
that's part of the way we depict it. But it does suggest that he was shirted a moment ago, but now is like shirtless. And so anytime you look at a mural, a tapestry, a sculpture,
one of those
will
big
be
Greek jars.
Yeah,
yep, big Greek jars, vases, vases. Like it's all there. There will be. It's like a Where's Waldo. You find like sometimes it's
you
just
have to find the shirt.
You find the shirt that he has recently discarded.
Right.
And he is largely depicted as having like a lean swimmer's bod, despite being like of the forest, which is, you know, I guess an artistic choice. Yeah, no tats, no piercings, just a real blank canvas. Just sort of allows the worshiper to sort of imagine what they would do to Corellin?
I mean, like 50 to 75% of that was pretty good.
Hell yeah.
So
Like
Corellin,
put a shirt on that, and you were basically there.
put a shirt on
there's
and you're basically
no
there.
way wait, no, part of his godhood is he wears a shirt. There's no
No.
way that's specifically his thing.
It says in the notes here, God of Shirts.
It says
Yeah.
in the notes, doesn't wear a shirt, but specifically has a powerlifter's body. He's real stout. He's got functional fitness.
Functional
he
fitness.
He can toss a caber if he felt like it.
So Corellin is another of the elven gods, generally
Mhm.
depicted as male. He's another of the patron gods of Fawe Tavar, and he is the god of art, beauty, and music.
K-pop.
K-pop, yes, E-pop, I believe we called it.
Oh yeah,
with the
E-pop,
elves.
because they're elves. Yeah, hell
Yeah.
yeah.
So his symbol is a sunburst star. So it's like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a 6-pointed star with the top and bottom points are extra like extended. So they're called sunburst stars. And Kokanee also saw a statue of him deep within the Aldernon Woods. We haven't had much interaction with Corellin at all, other than in the tomb of the Raven Queen. In his room, we had to essentially use art of some depiction to kind of art our way out of the room, and we ended up singing our way out of it. Finnan sang us out of the room, and there was like a lake or a river in the room, and Neppy touched it and aged 2 years. So we had to essentially part the water to find the way out of the room, and that's the only interaction we've had with anything with Corellin.
Yeah, that could have gone real bad because you got like a low dose of aging.
It was
If
a
Letters would have
D12,
touched
if I
that,
remember right.
because Letters, like, life expectancy for fucking Minotaurs is like 30, 35. So if like Letters got all 12 of that, he would just be like,
I mean, Tim can correct me. It might have been a D10, but I'm pretty sure it was a D12. You can
Old man Letters.
he would have gone old man Letters.
Well,
all
that was
fucking
like
gray.
that was like when we were on the ship to going towards Manta, and we were looking at like visions of our deaths, which was one of the Chatwater will get there about why we were on a boat and why we saw versions of ourselves dead. But Letters was really old, and Neppy remembered that instantly when she aged, and she was like, "Nope, you're not touching the water. You are not allowed to touch the water."
Because no one kills Letters. Letters
No,
dies
Letters
an old
let's
man
never die.
surrounded by sons.
Let's never die. So yeah, that's the only interaction we've had with Corellin. Moradin.
Oh, Morden. Dwarven god, loves his anvil. Cling clang, god of forging. Big beard. His symbol is literally an anvil. He loves that. He loves to forge. Not to be confused with the Tinker god. So like
nope, not tinkering.
Morden and
Kokanee's god.
I know.
Kokanee's goddess.
I know we talk about it on a daily basis. I just want to say Vatian, but I know that's not it. Erasmus.
Yes, you did it. Good job.
Not the god of earth, despite having the word in it. So like, so Arathis and Melora actually have a thing. We'll get to those two. And so, but Morden definitely crushes on Arathis because like he makes stuff, she makes stuff, but like in a different way. And so he's always like giving her raw material that she can tinker out of. And it's like,
I like that.
It's gotten to the point like he gets it. She has a girlfriend, but like, and so like now they're just friends, but he still has like feelings, but he's like chill about it.
Low crush.
But he still has the crush. He's like, oh, I don't want to be the creepy straight friend, but like, fuck. And so like he's always like sending her stuff. And so it's gotten to the point where he's just like, you know what? She makes really cool stuff. I'm glad I can be part of that.
I love that.
I'm gonna re-download Tinder.
Yeah.
Some deep lore. I love that about Morden. Yeah, like I don't have much information about how the gods interact with each other, other than the stuff about Melora and Arathis, which comes from canonical deity. So Sean could be very right. Yeah. Tim is probably in the chat now.
Definitely. He wears lifts. He is like a dwarven god, and he is pretty. In contrast to most dwarves, because he's the only dwarven god. All the other gods are like person height, and he's dwarven height. And so, yeah, he is deeply insecure about his height.
So he wears lifts.
He would never admit it, but he wears these big boots that like are like thick to begin with, and then lifts within the boots.
But can you imagine if he was like built like a dwarf, but the same height as the other gods. Just like
Yeah,
Thorn
fucking ripped.
Bjornsson
I love that.
level.
Looking just
So-
like Corellin with his
Yeah.
powerlifter bod.
No, looking more like Cord, but we'll get there. So Moradin is the patron god of Svel-En, Tor-En, and the surrounding Kor-En woods. He is in this universe not just a dwarven god. So he was originally a dwarven god, but has now been adopted across Wolfar in various different ways. And there's multiple different depictions on what he looks like depending on where you are. So there may be depictions of him where he is a dwarf, more dwarven. There may be depictions of him where he is more human-like, but that will change. Also, you will hear a dog padding around in the background. That is Tim's mom's dog padding around. And
Show
he's
us the
real cute.
dog.
No, Fergus may come over later.
Lift
But
him up.
he's so big. Moradin is you were right, he's the god of the forge, and he's also the god of the hearth. And his symbol is an anvil. So well done. Good job. And then we have had some interaction with him. There is a temple, the big temple is in Svel-En. It's called Moradin's Grace, and that's where the party took Nepi in the very early days when she got petrified, and they unpetrified her, which was great. And the other interaction we've had with Moradin is in the Tomb of the Raven Queen. It was the forging room where there was essentially Kokanee forged. It was the room was like, it was written in Dwarven above the door was, "You're only as strong as your weakest link," and we had to pull on these giant chains to keep a grate open, and Kokanee had to forge chain links, and it almost it knocked 4 of us unconscious. It was bad.
That was a bad one. We
That
almost
was a
didn't
bad
make it
one.
out of that one.
Yeah, not as bad as one of the other ones, but a couple of the other ones. But yeah, that was one of the bad ones. So yeah, that's what we know about Moradin. So you were mostly right. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. You're batting okay so far. Okay, tell me about Ioun. Tell me about Ioun.
Oh, Ioun's the fucking worst. Ioun is
for Ioun.
the Ravenclaw of the gang. She's the goddess
The
of
Ravenclaw of the gang.
knowledge.
Yes.
Her symbol is like a stack of dictionaries in different languages stolen from various libraries around the world. She makes a point of
stealing languages?
Stealing language knowledge that was really hard earned and not hers to take, but she takes it anywhere. She's kind of like a trickster god. She's kind of like if Loki had no redeeming features and was also a huge fucking nerd. So she's got these big Coke bottle glasses. She had to talk to Moradin. She's like, "Hey, I can see all right because I'm a god, but do you have anything that makes me look like a fucking nerd? Because that's what I am." And so her symbol is just a big middle finger.
Right.
She wears a muumuu.
Letters and Sean are not frustrated with Ioun at all, is what I'm hearing.
Well, no, this is just truth. This is
just
look,
the truth.
you can read this in
right.
the core book. But yeah, she's like, I love words and stuff. If you want secret knowledge, I have it. I probably won't give it to you. She is fairly lawful neutral dickhead is where she sits.
Okay.
No friends in the Pantheon. No one wants to hang out with her because she's always like, actually, this is the truth.
Oh, she's an actually. Great.
She's an actually. Oh, okay. Devoid of me shitting on Ioun, there's no way Ioun isn't an actually. There's no way the god of knowledge is
actually, yeah.
Actually, no, she might be the type who's just like, "Oh, you're wrong, but I'm not gonna say anything."
She just sips her tea in the corner and just goes,
She's exactly we'll just remain quiet and watch the world burn.
I love that. So Ioun, yes, is the goddess of knowledge. Her symbol is an eye that is kind of encased in a staff. And there is really, we don't know anything about her, really. The only interaction we really had with Ioun was when we were in the study in the Tomb of the Raven Queen, which there is a group called the Order of the Key in this on Wolfar, whose job it is to help keep the seals and to keep knowledge about the Chained Oblivion, to keep him locked away. Tim, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. And all of the information gathered in that they can goes into the study, and we were in the study, and that is in actually our very first episode was when we were in the study that we streamed. Was the first episode that Pose Your Question. So yeah, so some people gained some knowledge, some people lost some knowledge.
Who makes a book? Who makes a book that when you read it you lose stuff? Like that, like you're like, oh, I can't wait to get some knowledge from this book, and it's like, and it like sucks out your brain stuff.
To me,
like
to
fucking
me-
Marvolo Riddle.
Who's?
Right. Voldemort.
Well,
That's who.
it was
yeah.
I
anyways.
mean, if I remember correctly, you failed your intelligence saving throw.
I don't fail intelligence saving throws. That's not how that happens.
Or it was something happened that you failed an intelligence check, and that's why you got the knowledge taken.
No, he
from you.
willingly
It
gave
wasn't-
it up.
No,
No,
I
not
gave
there.
up. No. But look, I don't know what happened, but I did fail an intelligence saving throw. It is, if Callie is near me, it's pretty much impossible for letters to
Possible?
fail an intelligence saving throw.
Well, I mean, I feel like we just have to go to the notes now. I need to know this.
Fucking roll
we're
those
going to the
bones.
notes. Where that was
There's
episode
no
72.
unless I rolled a crit fail, which I guess is possible.
73.
Intelligence, like saving throws, is what he lives for.
Letters
When-
you gave. That's what you gave.
When we fought those mind flayers, they're like intelligence saving throws left, right, and center, and I was so ready for it.
Tim had you roll a D. No, you had to pull out a leather bound book, and there was an intelligence saving throw. And then I think based on your intelligence saving throw, you had to roll a D100. So you rolled a 58, and you forgot how to speak Infernal, but you didn't
Yeah.
know that you'd forgotten it. So yeah, it was definitely a of what? I'm not allergic.
Are you taking a shot?
Can I do this on?
Shot.
Okay.
Shot.
Okay.
Corbin
What is
would be
it?
proud.
I don't know. When your mother-in-law hands you a shot, you drink it.
I'd like to think that it was like borscht soup.
It was a very delicious beverage that I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about on Twitch. So
Do they make alcoholic soup? Is that a thing?
I mean, they
Look,
put
that's not
alcohol
important.
in
What's the next
soup.
god? What's the next god?
Okay, so that's Ayun.
No. We need to circle back to alcoholic soup at some point.
Chatwater, we'll get to talking about
I
alcoholic
just think
soup.
there should be some food that you can eat that like isn't like edibles, but like just gets you fucked up. Like
The problem is when you cook alcohol, it cooks off, right? So
Right. It has to be like a gazpacho-y type of soup than a cold
Yeah.
soup.
yeah, you ever just throw
Right.
some cold gin in a cold soup?
Cucumber
some
soup with
vodka
gin.
gazpacho.
Delightful.
Yeah, that cucumber soup with gin is just a gin and tonic with cucumber.
Just a really good gin and tonic. Okay, so tell me. Oh, yeah, and we've like at least my theory about Ayun's temple is that we don't know if there's a big temple of Ayun on the continent, but I think the study is her temple, and I'm pretty sure it's on its own plane of existence. I don't think it's actually encased in the tomb of the Raven Queen. I think it's its own pocket plane. And
Do you
I
think if we
'cause
just cast like travel plane ship, but we need the thing.
we need a totem for it. Yeah, but there are multiple ways to enter it because there are the people who are part of the Order of the Key can in some way, shape, or form access it if they gain enough knowledge or they figure it out. And I believe Neppy has a little key to the study. So if well, maybe that's the totem. Neppy has a key.
Oh, great. We don't
can
have
go
to mug
back.
anybody. We can just go.
We don't have to mug anybody. Maybe we can go back. I don't know. Well,
I mean, you can
Blackwater,
still
we'll get
mug
there.
someone if you want.
Blackwater, we just go save. We go, back to the city after the call that we decimated. It's now renamed Dresda. We help the people there, and then we go mug a bunch of people. That's really on
We
brand
did
for
talk
us.
about starting to mug the rich. Like,
The
because
rich?
turns
Yeah.
out if you kill people who are rich and bad, then there's less bad people, and where does their wealth go? Right into your pockets.
Right into your pocket, right?
So, Let's
tell
mug
me
rich bad people.
Let's mug rich bad people. Tell me about Melora.
Oh, we know Melora. Melora is Callie's best friend.
Goddess.
Melora is, well, I feel like they're pretty tight at this point. Melora is the wild mother, or maybe that's just a Critical Role thing. She's like she is nature. She has just real dirty dreads coming down, like not intentional dreads. Like, ooh, we just left that. We left
For a
that
long
cook a little
time.
too long, and there is stuff in it, not beads or whatnot, just stuff that's collected and like so like calcified in there.
Ugh.
But
Gross.
hey, dude, that's nature. You ever look hard at nature? Everything's pretty gross.
Pretty gross, yeah. Pretty
She's just
brutal and
covered
pretty
in
gross.
mites and like skin rashes, but she loves it because like that's just parasites, which is just one more form of nature.
Symbiosis, I suppose.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
real symbiotic.
Okay,
She's helping
okay.
the mites. The mites are helping her nasty dreads maintain their form.
Dear God.
And her symbol, I genuinely think, I think it's like a fucking leaf. I think it's just a leaf. Yeah, she's actually really chill, and she chills with her girlfriend Arathis.
Yeah.
And it's funny because they don't really have a lot in common. They just like each other because like Arathis is like, "Ooh, I made a new thing," and like Melora's like, "I grew a thing," and they're like, "Oh, I don't really have appreciation for your art, but I love that you're passionate about it," and like that's really fun for me.
I've
I
always
feel like that's
pictured-
like 50%. I feel like that's pretty spot on for their relationship.
I've always
Sorry, go ahead.
pictured Melora to be like someone that you would find at Burning Man.
100%.
Yeah.
Like they have the sort of regular life, and then but they also have that sort of like wild side. They're like the girl who has like the single dread. Like, have you met those where they're like, I'm not committed enough to go full dreads, but I got like the single dread. That's
right.
Melora. She's like, I'm a god, but I also, have a bit
But
of.
also
Melora's just
party.
a burner. She just
Yeah,
goes to burn.
she's a burner.
Yeah.
For
So
sure.
Melora is the goddess of the sea and the wilds, and yes,
Oh,
is
the
Callie's
sea.
yes, the seas as well. So she's the patron god of sailors, also. So there is no like real temple of Melora that we know of. There's a very large statue of her up in the north near the Quicksall Sea that we've seen, but other than that, we don't know of the temple. There is now a green temple green chapel that Callie actually helped create in the Feywild. So we helped her do that. And Callie has seen many shrines of Melora across the way, but there's no like actual temple. Clerics and paladins of Melora often make a pilgrimage to the Labyrinth of Glass. So that is like part of their whole thing about being a paladin or cleric of Melora, is that you have to go to the Labyrinth of Glass at least once. And her symbol is a swirl on the inside of a shell.
Oh,
generally.
that's nice. One thing that I forgot that is canonical, she does perpetually smell like low tide. She is the goddess of the sea, and yeah, you can smell her coming. And like, look, low tide is not a bad smell. It's just a specific.
Very specific smell.
Why does everyone need to go to the Labyrinth of Glass? Like, what is the specific tie between Melora and?
There is. We'd have to ask Tim about that very specifically, but to my knowledge, it's one of the places where the rift between the Feywild and the material plane is quite thin, as well as in the Alderdun Forest. So in those areas, Melora tends to hold a lot more sway. So it is, and I guess it just canonically in this universe, clerics and paladins of Melora make a pilgrimage to the Labyrinth of Glass, which is where Callie, because Callie was born in the Labyrinth of Glass, which is where she met up with the Order of Paladins that she traveled with before they were all brutally murdered by Baron von Kron, as Lennon told us last week. So yeah, that's Melora. And I like to think of Melora and Arathis' relationship as like, we'll talk about Arathis in a moment, but they're kind of like two halves of the same coin, since Melora is the goddess of, well, we'll talk about that when we get to Arathis, Chatwater. We'll get there. Let's talk about Arathis right now.
Okay.
Tell me about Arathis.
Big icy lady. She loves to tinker. She's the god of tinkering. And Caradoc is her patron town.
Yes.
And that really worked out for them. She's largely depicted in like quite like long flowing white robes, and the reason she wears these long flowing white robes is so that she, like, inside it's like she can open them up and then it's just like tools, like a watch salesman, and then it's just the various like skulls and skeletons for her faith forged. that she can set down and then tightly stretch the skin over her followers who are
Right, the Terminators.
to be blessed with well they just call it the gear works, is where their internal organs are replaced with a complex system of winches, pulleys, gears,
hamsters.
No. That's
nothing
Melora
living.
stuff.
Nothing living.
That's where the crossover
just to
comes
be
in.
clear, any
Melora
Faith
provides the
Forged
hamsters.
has nothing living inside them. They are just an extremely intricate facsimile of life, but they are not the thing they appear to be. So yeah, that's her favorite thing. It's like a cosmic joke. She's like, haha, I can take Melora, I see what you've given me. I can take this life you've made, strip it down, reskin it with my technology, and no one will know the difference. And that's like the fun little joke. And like Melora keeps like making things like, you won't be able to make like a skinwalker out of this one. And she's like, oh, I probably will. And so like that's like how they pass a Sunday. That's like their ideal Sunday, is like making new things and then turning them into soulless robots that think they're that thing. It's really cute.
Wow, that's such a nice depiction of their relationship. You were right about Caradoc, and you're right that she's kind of the goddess of tinkering, but moreover, she's the goddess of technology, innovation, and civilization.
Yes.
So she is the patron of Caradoc, and thus the Caraxians, who were this group of people who had outposts and people who were considered Caraxians all over Wolfar, except for in the Sisters Mountains and into the north half of Katona. There was a very sprawling empire. Her symbol is a half cog, like a half of a cog, like Kokane's holy symbol. She also created the Warforged, so that was her invention. She created the race of beings known as the Warforged. And yes, Kokane's goddess, and we have a lot of interactions with Arathis, and we'll talk more about her role in the Dawn War and what happened there, because she kind of played a big part in it. And something I really want to have when we have Matt on the show next time is to discuss his relationship to Arathis and how, because he's essentially kind of helping create that religion as we go through this campaign, and he gets to craft that kind of stuff. Like he's the high priest, so Kokane's constructed the temple of Arathis, and he's now giving sermons and all that kind of stuff. So I really want to talk to him about that, which would be really cool.
Now I'm curious what you had to say, because you were about to talk about Melora and Arathis' relationship, and you're like, we'll get there right now.
We're getting there right now. So my thought is that they're actually like two halves. They're both similar and diametric opposites. So Melora is the goddess of the seas and the wilds, and then Arathis is the goddess of civilization. So those two have to work in harmony for balance, because you can't have too much technology and innovation, because there will not be any of the wilds left over. But for humans or like humanity to exist, you need both. So I like to think they work.
Because if you have too many wilds, then you don't have any people to worship the Wild Mother.
Yes. So they have to kind of work together.
I like that.
And now they just date. So that's great. I don't know if Arathis and Melora, like that's from canonical D&D lore. I don't know. We don't know like in this campaign if there is any interaction between them. We haven't seen that yet.
Oh, absolutely.
But I certainly hope so. I hope so. Arathis is generally depicted as a woman. She's humanoid, kind of human in appearance. She's wearing glasses with like multiple different lenses, and she often has a dog with her, like a black lab dog that goes with her as well.
She definitely builds like the big moving statues of Burning Man.
Oh, 100%.
Like the big, like weird kinetic sculptures.
Yes.
And Melora's selling mushrooms.
I feel like we need to
selling. Just giving away.
Just giving away. Yeah,
she's
just giving them away.
She's just giving them away to people. Yeah.
That's how fun.
And like in the Tomb of the Raven Queen, Arathis' room almost killed all of us. It was almost a TBK.
That was the one with the smush.
The steam golem. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a big
smush dust and like a gear pit in the floor that they almost got Spooky almost got ground up into. and we almost got smushed by the ceiling because we ran into that room very quickly and didn't spend time to do stuff. But yeah, it almost killed us. So that was that room. Tell me about Cord.
Oh yeah, Cord, God of War, big lad. He is built like a power lifter. Just shoulders for days. He's got those traps. He's got those delts.
So much deltoids.
He's got real strong, vicious V's. If you know what I'm saying, like those, like we in the industry we call them obliques, but like they're just popping. And so Cord, he's like
popping V's.
He's got those popping V's. I mean, he's a God of War. I honestly, I'm not even gonna make a joke. I don't know if there's anything about Cord that makes him, different than like because what are the other Gods of War? You got Korn. Who was it in Conan? Well, no, Korn is a different God of War, and in
Korn,
Conan the Barbarian, I think it's Korn and Conan. Oh, I can't remember, but I feel like all Gods of War sort
just
of
one
blend
letter
together.
difference.
Pretty much, like Ares, like I guess wore armor, but like I don't know. I have yet to really find a God of War who's like any kind of special. So like I don't know anything about this guy, but he's like he's probably like soldiery and like loves to fight and probably does fun stuff with the bodies.
Like, imagine like a really really built monk. So there is a large temple of Cord in Wulfrene. We've stayed in it before the Battle of Gatestone Keep, the very first one. We stayed there. And that's temples primarily monks. Tim's hinted that there is the largest temple of Cord is somewhere in Garyang, so a completely different continent. And he is the Storm Lord. So he is the god of lightning and storms. Yes, and the god of battle and warfare. So his symbol is a fist holding a lightning bolt. And other than the Temple of Cord that we've been in, the only other interaction that we've had with him is in the room or the Tomb of the Raven Queen. It was the lightning room where Callie bent the lightning and
it was
avoided
Crom.
us.
Crom is the barbarian.
So Cord and Corn and Crom, they're just like all start with a K. I love that.
But the fact that he's like also a storm lord is rad, and like storms don't belong to the sea. Like storms are just their own thing. I like that a lot.
Yes, so like god of like lightning and stuff like that as well. So that's Cord. Tell me about Avandra. So tell me about.
If you don't, then to hell with you.
We're getting more Terminators now. No,
tell
me about.
Well, I mean, it is Arnold Schwarzenegger, but we're back at Conan.
Sorry, we're circling around. Tell me about Avandra.
Look, D&D owes a lot to Conan, and I feel like we can acknowledge that. Like a whole barbarian. Could you imagine? There wouldn't look. I'll just say it. If it weren't for Conan the Barbarian and like Arnold Schwarzenegger's just existing, fucking the barbarian class wouldn't exist. Just wouldn't exist in D&D.
They had barbarians before Arnold Schwarzenegger played Conan the Barbarian, but
I mean, look, the books existed, and like, look. Okay, now we're going too deep into it, but like, we owe Mr. Schwarzenegger a lot, us D&D kids. Like, the definitive barbarian.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's ever played D&D.
I think he's got better things to do. I think instead of playing D&D, he's like, I guess I'll just like run a small country or something. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Equivalents of a small country.
I feel like he doesn't have to play fantasy games. I think he just actualizes whatever he wants to exist.
Manifests his own destiny of what he wants in the world.
I have a question for you. This is a strange tangent, as we're used to, but would you say, I don't know how familiar you are with Asterix and Obelix.
Little bit.
Those are the little Viking dudes, right?
Yeah. Would you say they're barbarians? I was trying to think of.
Yeah. I mean, I was Vikings. Trying to think.
Vikings and barbarian, but like those are like
Asterix and Obelix aren't technically Vikings. They're the Ghoul, which is like was like a counter Greek. They were like Greek when the Greek Empire was around. They were like a splinter, like crazy group. That didn't want to follow what the Greeks and the Romans were doing. But
I don't know. I don't know if I'm familiar enough to make a judgment call on that.
I'm going to do some research. I'll give you guys the information next Chatwater.
Thank you so
I'll
That
much.
let
is
you know.
that is the cutting edge research we need. I mean,
That's what I can
there is
offer.
a comic where they just get loaded on either elk piss or just the raw mushrooms and just start flailing naked into battle, then I think that's a hard yes.
That's pretty much what Asterix and Obelix did. They fought the Romans when they would drink like a magic drink. I'm not making this up. They literally had they would brew like a cauldron of like stuff, and they
Well, if
would
that's not
drink it, and it
A
would give
rage potion, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
That's a
and then they
barbarian
would-
for sure.
yeah.
That's a barbarian.
That's
Yeah.
textbook. You don't have to do any more research.
Gauls. They're
Here's a
called
question. Here's a
Gauls,
question.
The
As
Gauls.
M's dad informed me in the chat.
Is
Thanks, Dad.
Popeye a barbarian?
Oh.
Because he pops that spinach and he flies into what
I would say-
what
I
we
would
could
say-
describe as a barbarian rage.
I would say he's a fighter, like a fighter or a monk, because he's
I was going
very
to say he
much hand
punches
hand
things,
held.
doesn't
Yeah,
he?
But it's all the
hand to hand.
spinach. He's useless until he gets that spinach in him. And then he fucking look. What's the god? The god Popeye? Oh yeah. Okay, so the god Popeye.
Popeye, the god Popeye.
No, we're talking about Avandra. We're talking about
Oh,
Avandra now.
Avandra. I know that name and things about them. I know Avandra. Where did I
Yeah.
hear that name? Who talks about Avandra a lot? Avandra, to me, sounds like a B tier pop star, who's not over the hill in terms of age, but is over the hill in terms of significance. But like you'd hear like, oh yeah, Avandra's touring, and you'd be like, oh, that could be fun. What was one of their hits?
Like a
So-
real local reference would be she plays like the P&E, but not like the stadium, like the
Yes.
actual like play.
No,
amusement
she's
park.
better than that. She's better than that. Like
So she plays like the Pacific Coliseum, but not Rogers Arena.
that's the one. That's what the listeners want.
The
They love
localist
these
reference.
local venues.
Listen,
Yeah.
once in a while, we're gonna work those in for our local fans.
We
There's
have
like
to.
3 of them, and most
For
of
the
them play
home
in the
team.
campaign. But they're gonna get those local jokes.
Yes.
Avandra. I'm actually so upset with myself because I know the name and nothing is coming to mind. And I'm not loving this washed up pop star angle. I think. I
Do
need
you want me
come up with
to
a better
give you a
bit.
hint?
Yes, a hint would be lovely.
Okay,
Thank you.
so
Em.
in the Tomb of the Raven Queen, the room dedicated to Avandra was when we sat at a table. We had to place bets in a bowl. We flipped a coin, and
Wait,
if
is
the-
this Tiddlywinky then? Because like, is
define
Avandra the
Tiddlywinky for me then?
Tiddlywinky? No, that's because like the god of the gnomes. Because that was the one who's like,
No, that's
"You gotta
Scarlet
bet."
Glittergold.
Okay, so wait, so this is okay. Wait, so Avandra is like, you got to play some bets.
Yes.
I love to gamble, but I'm
Yes.
not Garl Glittergold.
Yes.
I love gambling. I love it. I want you to put your life on the line and get some cash. I am Avandra. We're gonna have a good time at my temple.
Yeah. There.
Look, I absolutely nothing for that. I can't put anything together. I don't understand what she is.
So
She sounds
Avandra-
so regal, but is she like a god of thieves? Is she a stealthy
is the
god?
goddess of luck and chance and change.
Oh, how does
Yes.
change manifest?
That's such a great question. I was asking Tim about the gods today, and he said, I was like, she's the god of luck and chance, right? And he's like, yeah, and change also. So that was something he said today.
Okay, here's some fucking lore about Avandra.
Drop me some lore, Sean.
I think if ever there was to be a god devoid of gender, it would be Avandra. Because if they are a god of change, then every time they would appear as a different thing. Surely.
Cool.
Like,
I like
if
it.
that's their whole thing, like if anything, they'd probably be like this. Like the idea that they're luck. So if they're the god of luck, if they're luck and chance, then they're incredibly like fleeting and pernicious. Like, oh, I'm with you
Yes.
one day, I'm not the other. And if they're about change, then they're constantly reinventing themselves. They're basically
Like
just like-
changelings.
not
Like a
quite
changeling.
changelings.
Prince.
Like Prince nailed it eventually. Like Prince arrived. I feel like they are like a first year like art student who's like constantly in like, I'm this week, and like they're always dyeing their hair and like joining a new club. Like Avandra is
I
just
mean,
has
like
spent
constant
the
exploration.
years
Yes.
trying to nail down what they are, and it's just like constantly searching for meaning. And
Hmm.
they're like, I don't know what I am. I'm the god of change. I'm cursed to exist like this.
There
But
is
I love to party. Let's take a chance. Let's roll the dice.
Speaking of partying, the largest temple of Avandra that we know about is in Clore, which is like the city that is essentially like New Orleans in Louisiana.
Mhm.
So it's like one of the bigger temples is there, and her symbol is 3 wavy lines depicted next to each other.
If she is the god of change,
Yes.
then I'm going to throw this out. Then they are also the god of argument and the ability to change one's mind.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, the god of chance and debate. We never see that shit. Ooh, I like
Giannis,
that
I
a
think you're
lot.
right. We are giving Sean so much power in the universe.
It's
Sean's just sitting over here
not-
just spitting stuff out, and Tim's like, sure, yeah, that's exactly how it goes.
Listen, I mentioned a zoo once, and we got a zoo like a week later. Sean is doing much more detrimental stuff on a core like theology basis.
I love it.
I've
It's perfect.
I've never heard of a god of change that wasn't like, oh, what is it in 40K? Like Tzazik or whatever their name is. But that's like a mutation and whatnot. But like a benevolent god of change. Yeah, it's sort of
Very cool.
Yeah, David Bowie meets Prince meets
100%. That same energy for sure.
Yeah. I don't know, Pink or something.
But a god of change could also just be like uncaring because it doesn't matter that things are changing.
I just give a real, just kind of like,
Do you know what I mean?
kind of like lofty, airy,
like,
flighty.
oh, that's
above it
okay
all.
because it's as long as it's different, I'm cool with it.
But they can't be disengaged because they're also the god of chance, which means they actively take a role. Because like if you're rolling the dice, you're like, fucking give me that chance, God. And like if you roll well, then that means they were there and they blessed that. Now, like that is how the worship of that god would be. So if anything, short of maybe like Melora, because like oceans and like raising your fields, like if you have food, Melora's with you. Like Avation, this god. Did I forget the name already?
Avandra
would surely have to be the most active. Show the dog, tilt the frame.
Okay.
Show
I don't know. My webcam is like way up here. Fergus.
Then pick up the big dog.
I don't know if I can pick up the big dog. Okay, you keep talking. I'm gonna see if I
Channel
can pick up the big.
corn.
No, he's walked
Pick up
away.
a
He's
big
walked away.
dog. I want you to pick up a big dog. But yeah, if it's a god of chance, no one prays harder than gamblers and soldiers.
100%.
And so like,
I love that.
They can't be
Gamblers
disengaged.
play super hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's I can imagine too that's why Avandra's got a huge following in Clore, because there's so much gambling and so much contraband and betting and illegal stuff happening.
And this is why you lose your luck, because how you even serve them changes. Like
Probably.
they will change their mind in terms of what they want right now. It's like the worst relationship.
The greatest example of someone who's like,
show us the big dog. Yes, the greatest example. Go on, Yanis.
Of like someone who is entangled with luck is, for anyone who's read the Wheel of Time series, there's a character named Matt, and he becomes blessed with incredibly good luck. But he can also hear like dice roll in his head whenever like a big course that can change history is coming up. He can hear the dice rolling in his head and like tumbling in a cup.
Oh,
and then when he makes the decision, but he doesn't know what it's going to affect, the dice stop rolling.
Oh.
And so like in the book,
too much power.
In the book, you like have this whole like thing of like he'll hear the dice start rolling and know that something he's going to do in the next little while is going to have a huge effect on like humanity. And then he'll say like something completely, that's not a big deal. And he'll hear the dice stop rolling, or something will happen, like someone will attack him and they'll keep rolling and he'll be like, well, I guess that wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's that the whole idea of like chance and change is such a great thing to play with. Like if you ever did like some a character whose god was that patron,
yeah,
it would be sort of almost uncaring in the sort of like luck of it.
Oh, I can imagine too if there was, like hearing the dice roll, like a cleric of Avandra hearing the dice roll.
Are you gonna help me or are you not?
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Okay, moving on because we have more gods. Tell me about Pelor.
Oh man, Pelor is everybody's dad. Like Pelor is the dream dad. Pelor is the like neutral good. I love people being good. I'm the god of the sun.
Yes.
He has like he's always in his armor, but he has a deep farmer's tan. Like his
Love that.
thighs haven't seen the sun in ages.
Millennia.
Literal ages. Like but yeah, he's real cool. He wants the best for everybody. Like he's the type of person where he'll lend you money and he knows you're not going to pay him back.
Aw, Dad.
I mean, he's milk toast, but he's like organic, free range milk. Like he baked the bread himself. Like it's in like the pizza oven he built with his dad. Like he is wholesome and pretty vanilla.
You guys were getting a dog. Are you ready?
Yes, show us the dog.
Ready? Here's the pupper.
Oh, it's a big dog.
There's a puppy. Hi, Fergus.
Oh, it's a big dog. Show us the dog.
Fergus.
His expression was the best. He was like,
It's perfect.
"What?"
He has
He's like,
stage
what am I
fright.
doing here?
It's tough the first
He's
time
so
you
sweet. He's
stream.
the
It's
kindest
tough to be
dog.
observed.
I know. I was the same way. I get it. We're gonna have to get
He's
him
so
on more
sweet.
often.
But yeah, that's Pelor in a
Yes.
nutshell.
Well,
That's
if
not
I'm
even
ever
a
up in the
joke.
Okanagan.
He's just-
So
Pelor is Clark Kent with sun powers. Like
Oh, I like that.
that's
good.
just what he is.
Pelor is the patron god of Wolfrine. So he's the patron god of Wolfrine. He is the god of the sun. You're right. He's also the god of the harvest and the keeper of time. So he's the timekeeper as well. Which, if we
What
remember back
does
to the
that
room,
mean? The keeper of time.
So is
Like-
he
He's the
like
time-
is he considered the timekeeper because he's the god of the sun and sundials work from the sun, or is he like the god of time where he can fluidly control time?
such a good question. We're going to have to ask Tim. Tim just told me that he was the god of time, the keeper of time was how he phrased it this afternoon.
Oh, he's the keeper
so-
of time. Okay.
The
No, he's the
sundial
god
thing.
of the god keeper of time. I don't know, god or keeper of time.
The sundial thing makes a lot of sense, but the keeper of time, that word, it's like if you were then to kill Pelor somehow,
Would time stop?
no, like chronology gets loose. So like
just loosey goosey with
you
time.
get an eternal night. So like
An endless summer,
An-
a long winter. Sorry.
No, he means there's no sun god. So
there's
there
no
would
sun.
just be night.
So
There's no
it's
sun, yeah.
eternal night.
No, I know.
And like maybe things happen not in chronological order. One of my Alice in Wonderland, there's this it might even be Through the Looking Glass. She talks to somebody and this old woman, she like says ouch, puts a band-aid on her finger and then pricks her finger like by accident. And then Alice is like, why'd you do that? She's like, oh, I already said ouch. And like when I read that as a kid, I was like, what the fuck? Like
Time is a flat circle.
Wait,
Oh, yeah, that's better.
whoa.
Oh, my lighting in
If-
here is changing all the time.
if he is the keeper of time, that suggests that like he is the only thing keeping time being like linear. And so if he were out of the picture, can we banish him and just make Tim get wild?
Let's get
like-
real freaky with the clocks.
You start aging in reverse.
I don't
Like,
know. We'll have to
you
check
take
in with Tim
damage
about.
before you roll for.
We'll have
like,
to check in with Tim
AC.
about wording, but I have written in my notes "keeper of time." And in the Tomb of the Raven Queen, we saw the story of the death of the Raven Queen, and it was depicted in chronological order on a sundial. So that was Pelor's room. If you don't know what we're talking about, please go listen to episode 0 on YouTube, A Sister's Sacrifice, because that's where it is. But yes, so we have had some interaction with priests of Pelor, so folks who worship Pelor. When the Velsum killed Kokanee and opened the rift outside of the Gatestone Keep by destroying the Gatestone Seal, the high priest of Pelor, Sunspeaker Ogrin Halskani, came and helped seal that with all of the acolytes and priests of Pelor. And that's what we know about Pelor. That's about it. But patron god of Wolfrine. Tell me about Bahamut.
Oh, but okay, so Bahamut is basically Pelor's older brother and like hardline older brother.
Hardline.
Whereas,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
so true. Like Pelor is like the neutral good. Again, Clark Kent. Bahamut is the lawful good, but emphasis on the lawful.
Yes.
He's like,
You're
law
correct
comes
there.
first, benevolence comes second. Only the lawful deserve benevolence.
He is the law, and the law is not mocked.
I'm a
Yes.
big platinum dragon. It's like Bahamut is if Judge Dredd were a dragonborn and were contractually obligated to be benevolent. Bahamut is not stoked about being lawful good. He he stumbled upon it. His god, his mom, the super dragon birthed him, is like, you're lawful good. And he went, fuck, I love that lawful part, but like, I don't want anything else. And so the people who like are Bahamut, they're the crusaders. They're the like, they're good to have if you're in trouble, but please don't invite them to stay, because then they'll like rearrange your cabinet, and they're total fucking narcs.
Yeah,
like,
super narcs. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I've always had a hard time with lawful good as like a term, because like the whole idea behind it is that they follow the law perfectly.
Yes, but the law is not always good.
But the law is not always good. So do they follow law that's not good, or do they just follow law?
It depends whose law, because if the law you're following is divinely mandated, okay, this poses a very interesting philosophical question. Are things morally right because a god says they are right, or does God agree with things that are morally right and thus tells you to do them?
Ooh.
Because if,
question.
you know, a god says you should kill that baby, I guess you kind of have to. But because God told you to do it, it's morally right, isn't it? Versus killing a baby, generally not okay. But if God tells you, that's law. So what are you going to do?
That's what I mean. Like the difference between lawfully good and lawfully evil is essentially just a matter of other people's perspective of the laws you're following.
And to my understanding, it's who benefits. Generally lawfully good, in my understanding of alignment, which is quite loose in 5e, and I know that it like alignment had more of a play in previous editions, but lawful good is like for the good of all, like for the good of humanity, and like serving a greater good for a greater, higher purpose than necessarily the individual good, like following and like lawful evil, to my understanding, has always been like following the letter of the law but manipulating it for one's own personal needs, superseding everyone else's.
I think
when you get to lawful, it's just basically all the same bucket. It just depends on which bucket.
Whose bucket?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, you have the following things to the letter of the law versus the spirit of the law. Because you could still be lawful good and say, I see what this law says and the wording that you have pitched, Mr. Lawyer, sir, but clearly you have manipulated it to suit your ends.
Yes.
And ultimately the real law is good. And so like I will still observe the law, but in like the spirit it's written. Versus like lawful evil people are the real finicky lawyers who like
they're rules lawyers.
Or rather, they are people who will employ laws to enact evil, which is a very real thing that does not exist solely in fantasy. To like support, like lawful evil people knowingly support systems that like hurt others, and they do so willingly and often intentionally. That's like, that is lawful evil. So I guess it also like, which laws are you following? Because
whose laws? Yeah.
Because if you are a non-divine lawful character, like say you're a fighter and you're lawful, it's hard to be to be lawful good if your liege is Vlad the Impaler. You know what I mean?
Yes, because then the laws you're following are the laws you're supposed to follow, but they're not good.
And if you start to question the spirit of the law or the spirit of it, then you're not following the law. Then you're just good.
And there
That's what I'm saying.
Any
Lawful
more
feels
neutral
just
good.
like it should just be one character, like, and then you pick whichever laws you want to follow as to like define the good versus evil
The best
spectrum. But it's
the best example I think of like a lawful good character in a bad system is the good cop in the corrupt system who like believes in law, understands that it has been manipulated, but like can't change the system, and so they're just trying to do good where they can within the system that's provided.
Right.
Lawful non-divine lawful good characters are like real juicy, and you're right, they're not easy to play because they require like like big philosophical legwork from the operator, to be like, oh no, how lawful can I be and still be good? Who does this law serve? What is the purpose of this law? It's a hoot. So Bahamut, super narc.
Okay, so you're right. Bahamut is the platinum dragon. Go ahead.
Believing whether people are innately good or not, that people lawful good or just lawful like suggests that like if people do not have law, this is Lord of the Flies, this is what it is like if we don't have law, then people will descend into evil. It is law and systems that allow people to be good, and without those systems, then they stop being good. And so Bahamut, I would argue, does not have faith in persons, whereas Pelor does. Pelor says if we allow people to be good, they will be, and we don't have to hold their hands. And Bahamut says we must enforce law, thus enabling people to be good. But without my divine judgment, then they will degenerate into.
Well, I like that. Yeah, so Bahamut is the platinum dragon, very widely worshipped across Wolfar. One of the larger temples is in Port Liberum in Ishion, a different continent. And we're not sure where the main temple is, though, but that's one of the larger ones, the god of law, order, and justice. And in the Tomb of the Raven Queen, we were supposed to fight the guard. There was supposed to be like a guard that we were going to fight, the Queen's Guard, but they were already dead when we got there because we released the Raven Queen. We brought her back. So my sense is she killed them, either with her upon her arrival or something, or she killed them outright. Yeah, so that is Bahamut. Okay, moving on, gods wise, we only have a couple more. So we know a lot, we've talked a lot about the Raven Queen and the Matron of Vengeance. So I won't test you on her. Would you like to spout your knowledge about the Raven Queen?
I'll just, I guess. So the Raven Queen is goddess of death, right? Like
the moment between life and death. She was.
Okay, so Nephthisiket didn't remix that. She just picked up the mantle.
Yes, she did.
So she's like the in the classic Greek, she's like the person on the boat on the river Styx. Like she's the person who ferries people from
kind of
life to the afterlife.
Yeah, not necessarily like goddess of the underworld, but goddess of the moment between life and death. But now she is the goddess of vengeance. And her main temple was in Manta, which is now the Forgotten Expanse or the Forbidden Expanse. And she had lots of Kenku who were priests and priestesses, and were serving Nephthisiket and now have been called back to her. We've had lots of interaction, and you're going to see my lighting change here because it's very dark. There we go. Now that's a lot better. So we've had lots of interaction with her, and her symbol is a white and black like mask of a woman with a crack across the eye. So that's the Matron of Vengeance. Go ahead, Sean.
Let me pitch something. Because I imagine we'll have to go toe to toe with her at some point.
Probably,
that seems like a pretty good end game for us. But were the Matron of Vengeance to exist, enact her vengeance, because I think that's what she's working on right now, her personal vengeance.
She is in the abyss enacting a bunch of vengeance on the Chained Oblivion. Heck yeah,
let's say she's able to achieve it, and then she still exists. Because gods are kind of tied to what they are. If she is just like the Matron of Vengeance, then like...
What does she do when she enacts her vengeance?
Well, that's the thing. Once she gets it, it's not enough, because once she kills the Chained Oblivion, she either changes and becomes the matron of like, I don't know, forgiving oneself or whatever the hell, or she stays the matron of vengeance, and thus like
Feeds off the vengeance of the world, I suppose.
the way you were to like feed her as a follower is you would like offer your vendetta, and so you're like, matron of vengeance, come with me on this like suicide mission to kill this guy who killed my dad or whatever. And so like that keeps her going because she's hungry for vengeance, but she doesn't have her own to do anymore, so she just like bops around from like vendetta to vendetta.
She doesn't have many followers at this point. We do know that there is a temple to the Raven Queen in the Shadowfell. So there is a bunch of Shadarkai monks who worship her there. Her champion, who also died at the end of the Dawn War, is buried there. And there is before she went to Bakal to enact all of the stuff. There was someone in Tim's world in the other campaign that I play in who was wearing the Deathwalker's ward armor. And she went to this druid and was basically like, hey, that's my armor. Would you like to follow me and, pledge your life to vengeance? And the druid was like, her name was Valanthe. And Val was like, no. And the armor like ripped off of her body and was like gone. And she was like, well, you're not my champion then. And so now the armor exists somewhere out there for the Raven Queen to gift when she sees fit, or the Matron of Vengeance to gift when she sees fit.
I'll call it right now. You cannot have a god of vengeance and a god of justice living like
in the main pantheon of gods. Yeah.
It's just a matter of time before you have some sort of god
something's gonna throw down.
Civil war.
Another war. Oh my gosh.
Because like if the Matron of Vengeance decided, because like we all know the Bahamut's narc, and he wouldn't stand for it. He'd say, you've got a problem. And then like fucking Paler would probably be like, fuck, I gotta stand with my boy, he's my older brother.
Yeah, dude.
But Nephthisicat would have to stand with Matron of Vengeance because she's all guilty about causing that. And then it's like, no one really likes Matron of Vengeance, but a lot of people like Nephthisicat. And you know what would have to happen? Fucking Arathis on one side and Melora on the other. Like proper fucking civil war, like Dawn War Part 2. Just because you cannot have justice and vengeance. They are not the same thing.
Tim is just listening to this with his typewriter.
I'm in the kitchen at my in-laws' place.
Dawn War 2.
Tim and his mom are sitting outside on the patio watching this as we're talking. And Tim was actually the one who came in and turned on the light while I was in here.
Colin, the lag will stop him from hearing that. If you get him in here right now, he will miss it on the lag.
So, you guys don't want a god civil war over what's more important, vengeance or justice? Because really, no, fucking, because now we're getting to the like, this is so interesting in terms of like players, because like players are generally so like selfish. Like PCs matter and NPCs are literal second-class citizens because they're not people like we are. No, like that's how that works. That's just how the game works. And so players are generally driven by more vengeance than justice, because like vengeance is, how does this affect me? I want to feel better, and thus I want to do this. And so, like, yeah, Bahamut's a fucking narc. No one gives a shit about justice, not PCs. And so to, like, side with, like, oh, this will be better because it'll, like, benefit society. But if someone kills Clack or Callie or, like, Jar, we're going to want to go after them. And, okay, yeah, if someone were to show up today or next session and fucking, like, behead Jar in front of Callie, and Bahamut said, no, you can't go after them, but the Matron of Vengeance says, yes, you can, guess where that party's going to go.
But wait a second. You said Melora goes one way and Arathis goes the other.
The other way.
Then
in that...
Just because they're dating.
No, but I'm just saying Callie's god would go one way. And
Kokane's god would
go the other.
Melora goes.
God and Kokane's god would likely be on opposite sides of that war.
Because Avation is civilization. You need justice for not Avation. Arathis is civilization. We need that. We need justice for civilization. Order. You need
and Nephthisicat would likely, probably out of guilt, potentially side with. Oh gosh, Tim, you're not allowed. No, we're not allowed just to throw Hooks at Tim.
You remember, this is just getting more and more like. Okay,
But
so
we
that's
have
been
more gods
Chatwater.
to
We're gonna
We're
cancel
all
the
done.
show.
But here's
Dawn
the
is
thing: it could
giving-
literally start with us because you are like the leads of the respective
We're
religions.
high priests of the
the
religion.
last
And
Dawn,
so what
Dawn
you
War started
say
with you guys too.
goes. Yeah, that's what
and
happens.
we're
when
already
two
signed
high-
up for her.
And it's like, it's
Oh,
what
you
happens when
guys are too.
Yeah. We have fealty for one thing. That's the whole thing. We have
That
fealty.
will be the thing.
That's the one thing. No, it's not allowed. Not allowed. But speaking of Nepthisicat, we should probably talk about Nepthisicat now. I can't talk about the major interventions anymore. We're giving Tim too many ideas. So tell me about what you know about Nepthisicat.
Oh, I mean, I really want to keep riffing on this. Justice versus vengeance from a PC perspective. Oh, what do you care more about, your friends or all these people who theoretically exist?
That's such good
Anyways.
D&D fodder. That's such good. That's good high level 20 stuff.
But that's stuff that only works when you play with players who are able to not metagame. Like when you play with players who are able to go, my character would care about the general populace. Whereas most players, they're not able to draw that delineation between themselves. So
Yes.
they're playing with their party and that's all that matters. Whereas I feel like we actually have players in our group who would be like, no, my character wouldn't do that.
Well, I think it takes a level of like going just beyond, oh, my character cares about people, but like really ask yourself, which people? Like,
Yes.
how many individuals that you know could you allow to die so that the faceless masses could exist? Would you let Jar die? Would you let Kamea die? Would you let Clack and like the rest die so that the faceless, because you're lawful good, you're good, you care about the people, but how much do you really? Anyways, that's the shit I live for. But let's talk about Nepthisicat. She is the goddess of the moment between life and death, which
she
you're
is now.
gonna have to clarify for me.
What do you mean?
I feel
clarify?
like I don't understand how that works. Like,
okay, so it's like she is the goddess who essentially, like, when you die, she helps you transition to the after. So like your soul doesn't just stop; it goes somewhere. So she is.
So she is
transition.
She is a like astral postal service.
Kind of.
Right?
A judgmental astral postal service.
Yeah.
Oh, so she decides where you go.
I would say that she like she looks at your life and the decisions you made and helps ferry you in the direction you are destined to be going to. Because I wouldn't say she makes that decision. I would say that she just like carries that out for you.
This makes so much sense in terms of why she hates undead, because much like if we were to lose Palor, the keeper of time, if we were to lose the keeper of the moment between life and death, then what you have are, if you don't have a postal service, you get like lost mail and lost souls. And what are lost souls if not undead? So the reason Nepthisicat hates undead is because it is proof of her failing. If Nepthisicat is doing her job right, then every soul goes somewhere specific, and an undead is like literally fucking with it's stolen mail.
It's stolen. Or there's someone who is perverting the passage between life and death.
So
yes, that's why she hates undead so much.
So how does Nappy feel about Spooky's powers?
When we were originally starting the campaign and Jen told me she was playing a necromancer, I was like, ooh. Neppy had some big problems with Yana's magic in the beginning, especially more so when she learned, especially when we started learning more about the pants. Neppy had some issues with that, but Neppy's got a big heart and she wears it on her sleeve and she cares so deeply for Yana, and knowing why Yana practices the magic that she does makes it easier. She gets very uncomfortable when Yana brings up zombies and skeletons and like her having of course Wiggles is a familiar, so he's not necessarily undead, but he's a depiction of an undead spider. She's like, and she's only recently gotten more comfortable with him. But yeah, Yana's magic made her uncomfortable for a very long time. Yeah, so much so that she was like, Yana was one of the first people that Nepi cast life transference on, so that she knew that if they ever had to go to Temple Philenis, at least she had essentially blessed Yana and been like, no, she's cool. She can come in, even though she's a necromancer. She can come in, it's cool. Yeah, she had some problems with it, for sure. The undead make her uncomfortable. So yeah, Nepi's goddess. Her symbol is a cat's head that is vaguely kind of Egyptian. I've showed it it's on the Instagram. It's like all over the Instagram when my books are up there. There's the main temple is Temple Philenis, which we've been to a handful of times, and then there's also Temple Caracal, which is the temple in Wulfrene, where Softly is the priestess there. And she's humanoid, and she has cat-like features, but she's not a tabaxi. And she often comes to Nepi in the either two kind of like golden eyes or a small little black cat that tends to pat around while she prays. So as we know, Nephthisiket was the sister of Asilis, and Asilis was the high priestess of the Raven Queen. And Nephthisiket was kind of like a lower priestess. And Nephthisiket was in Manta during the battle, and we'll talk about that when we talk about the Dawn War. So after the Dawn War ended, she built the temple or the tomb of the Raven Queen, and we'll talk about that. And then she traveled to Ishion to plant the bough of Thalbask, the tree of life, and help grow and reestablish the plains, which was another act that, like the building the tomb of the Raven Queen was one of she did that to pay penance for her sister's betrayal, and then also replanted the tree of life, Thalbask, as another act of penance. And both of those acts like helped with her ascension into godhood. So she traveled to Katona after leaving Ishion, and this was when she was still mortal, and was speaking with people and healing. And after the battle in Manta, Nephthisiket was like very scarred and disfigured. She wore a cat-like face mask that covered the top half of her face, and then shrouds and face covering, and covered most of her body in like large draping prayer vestments, which is like what Nepi wears generally. Like when she goes back to Philenis, she wears like a face covering and stuff like that, which is why the priestesses do it. And in her travels, the only people that didn't treat Nephthisiket differently because of her scarring and disfigurement were tieflings, who at that time were also on the fringes of society because of the way that they looked and their kind of demonic abyssal heritage after everything that had happened. And that often tieflings were given the task of dealing with the dead, which was considered subservient work at that time. Because after the Raven Queen was killed in Manta, there wasn't much reverence given to death. So the task of dealing with it was given to tieflings because they were considered really second-class citizens. So Nephthisiket was quite taken in by tieflings as a group of people, and she traveled and sought out the Kenku, who were priestesses of the Raven Queen, to maintain the ancient ways and give them the reverence they deserved. And then she brought all of her followers to a temple in the middle of the desert that she created, Temple Philenis. And it's almost like she was her own high priestess for a time because she was still mortal. But it wasn't necessarily, she wasn't a high priestess of herself. She was a high priestess of the ideals that the Raven Queen upheld, and that she was adapting towards the kind of ever-changing world after the death of the Raven Queen. And when she ascended, there was actually peace for a time. And then after the Dawn War finished, there was a small uprising of the Chained Oblivion in Amonkhet. And Nephthisiket was really worried about this, but also had reservations about taking mortal form, considering what had happened to a lot of the gods during the Dawn War. So she called upon a tiefling woman, Yoravine, as her first high priestess to go help her, and gifted her with powers and basically granted her cleric powers. And so that's how she called her first high priestess. So that's Nephthisiket. She's pretty great. I am very thankful that Tim has let me run with a lot of it. So Tim and I have kind of together created Nephthisiket as a goddess and her religion, which is very cool. And there's 12 high priestesses that I've all gone through. I guess, I mean, I know all the lore of Nephthisiket, and it is more than I have time to talk about here. But do you guys have any questions about Nepi's goddess or anything like that? Anything you don't know that you want to know?
Why the cat?
Oh, great
Why
question.
was she just like a cat person beforehand? Like when she was a high priestess, did she have like 8 cats?
It's in her name, Sean.
No, I know.
She traveled with a giant black. She traveled. Oh, I think I'm freezing. Oh no, you can probably still hear me. Oh, that's good. She traveled with a giant black panther.
Oh.
Yeah. That was one of her, that was kind of like not necessarily a familiar of hers, but a traveling companion, was a giant black panther. I don't remember the name of the panther, but yeah, she traveled with a giant black panther. And my sense too was that her because of the disfigurement, her features became much more angular. Oh wow, the word
angular.
That one, thank you. And kind of cat-like in appearance.
So oh, I dig it.
Yeah. Yeah.
How does one?
I like the fact that she was never supposed to be like the main person. Like it was her older sister who was like the high priestess of the Raven Queen. Like she was. It was kind of like thrust upon her to take up the mantle of like, like, oh shit, well there's no one else to do it. Like I guess I'll do it.
And also my sister royally fucked up.
Yeah.
And it was my job to be my sister's keeper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone isn't actively dying, how does one serve? Like what, short of, helping someone transition from life to death, what are her likes? What are her dislikes? What are her turn-ons? What are her turn-offs? Like, what are the do's and don'ts? Like, okay, big don't, bring people back from the dead.
Big don't do that.
What is a big do that aside from like help someone die? What is a non-death related do that Nephthisiket loves?
Other than murdering people, so she has people to ferry.
I would say that like Nephthisiket is quite enjoys. She would enjoy probably a bit of celebration, like reverent celebration too. Like if we think about the party that the priestesses threw after Hade died, that is built into their order. Like after every funeral is a huge celebration. So understanding like that life is cyclical, and that you are invested with every part of life, even death. That death is not just the end. It is a different chapter. It is a new beginning of something different. So understanding that there is reverence to all parts of life, especially death.
And I guess if she is able to like, I don't want to say judge, but know where people belong after they die, she has some sort of insight in their lives. So I guess she would get enjoyment out of the lives that those people lived.
I can imagine so, yeah. And how they,
because she would know them. She would know what they'd done. She would
know their souls. That she would know their sense of being and worth and who they are, and where she would see where they're supposed to go and be like, okay, this is the kind of person that you were. And she's also like a lawful neutral god. And when we originally started playing the campaign, Nepi's alignment was lawful neutral. That like there are laws out there in the world, but the only laws I follow are my goddesses.
What is her relationship with Cord like?
Such a good question.
Cord is like the closest thing we have to a god of death because he's god of war and storms. And like, how does Nepi feel about wholesale slaughter? Like,
she doesn't like senseless death. She doesn't like unpurposeful death. And she also doesn't like when it's like, one of the things with Nephthisiket too is when it's your time, which is why she has the, there's no, when somebody dies in the party because of a monster or creature we're fighting, that is not their time, so she is able to kind of in those. But if somebody in the party died, if someone in the party died and Nepthiseket spoke to her in that moment and said, it's their time, that would be a really, really big. Neppy would have to make some big choices.
Tim,
about
earmuffs.
that one.
Earmuffs, Tim.
Because
earmuffs.
Neppy can bring people back from the dead regardless of what.
Yes.
Here's because Neppy has powers. I'm curious whether or not Nepthiseket could take it away. Like if Nepthiseket was like, hey, Callie's like that's it for Callie, like no more Callie. And Neppy was like, I don't think so. Could Nepthiseket be like, I'm taking your gun and your badge? Like,
honestly, I don't know. Like Neppy has never stepped out against her goddess like that because it's just not done. And also Neppy's like, there are 3 things that are like pivotally 4 things that are pivotally important to Neppy in her life, and her goddess is one of them. And like stepping out against her goddess and doing something that would go against the aims and goals of her goddess is like, that's a big deal. Like I even think about when we went through the moment with the Matron of Vengeance, there was a moment where I thought of offering, like, would Neppy offer to take the mantle of the Raven Queen? Forgo everything with Nepthiseket and be like, and in my mind, I was like, I could do that. And still Neppy would be serving her goddess.
yeah, it doesn't count then. And she would know. And then that means that the fucking Matron of Vengeance would have to break you.
Yeah. So
they would know. They know if it's not genuine.
Yeah. So like, I think that Neppy's relationship to her goddess is so different than I think of Kokanee's relationship to Arathis, and Neppy's relationship to her goddess is one of just like, I am down here, you are up here, and like I serve you and you called me, so it is my fucking honor to serve you. Because Neppy was called. She didn't work her way up. She didn't volunteer to be high priestess. Like Neppy was called to be high priestess.
Because Nepthiseket did come from sort of like not originally her destiny, like she was the younger sister. Do you think she has a bit more like, she's a bit more like down to earth than most gods? I know that's a weird question, but like a lot of the gods were gods. Like that was their deal.
Yes.
Like they were always gods. And she kind of rose to being a god, and she wasn't even the head of the order when she did. So like, do you think she's kind of a bit more like, it's chill, I get it, I know what it's like to be mortal?
I think Nepthiseket understands that there are no decisions, that there are black and white. She doesn't live in absolutes except for the fact that no undead. That's the big absolute. But that human life is very complicated, just as death is very complicated. And what death does to people is complicated, and people's relationship with death changes, and the way that people process that changes. So I think she understands that it's not necessarily, nothing in someone's life is black and white, that it has to be interpreted through gray, because she herself came from such a muddled beginning. She was never supposed to be this. And I found it so interesting when the Matron of Vengeance called her the usurper, as if she did this, that this was her thing that she was going to do, that Nepthiseket was to blame for that. And when the Matron of Vengeance was like, we'll deal with her in a minute, I was just like, oh my God, Nepthiseket didn't do that. Her sister did. Yeah. So it's super interesting. I love Neppy's relationship with Nepthiseket. It is one of my favorite things about playing her. It's very cool. We have a couple more gods, and I know we're
do we want to save the betrayer gods for the next one, and then we'll do them and the Dawn War? Because I don't know if we have time for both.
I think that's a great idea. I think we should talk about Io, and I think we should talk about the primordial titans, and then I think we should save the betrayer gods.
Do we not get to talk about Tiddlywinks? Glittergar?
Garl Glittergold?
Yeah. Does he not get
I haven't shouted him out because he's not one of the like main gods in the bigger overall Wolfar pantheon, but we can talk about him, sure.
Is he cool adjacent? Is
He's
he
cool
not
adjacent.
invited?
Yeah, he's cool adjacent.
How? You don't have to give me a number, but that
Yeah.
suggests Glittergar is not the only cool adjacent god.
There's
I would
probably other
assume.
cool adjacent gods. Yeah,
Oh, I love that. So there's like
lesser gods.
it's not old gods, new gods. It's like good gods, off-brand gods. You
Garl
get
Glitter
like
Gold. Garl Glitter Gold.
Garl Glittergold is the RC Cola of gods. Like, and that's really all you need to know about him. The gnomes worship him, the halflings, all the little folk, not the dwarves. They have too much pride.
Yes, so like halflings and gnomes. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Are worship
because he
Garl
was
Glitter.
half off. Because he's off-brand god.
An off-brand god. I hate that, but kind of.
It's pretty accurate. But Io,
Yeah, Io.
the hand thereof.
Yes. So tell me
Io.
about Io. Who is
Io is the
was-
god of vowels, and thus they're the only god you'll find who don't have any consonants in their name.
Yes.
And so as such, they are the god of song, because that's really all vowels are. So they're the god of song. Io, Io,
The god of debt, as in
god of debt.
I
owe you.
you.
Yes,
Another
somebody
excellent
owes
vowel.
Io something.
Ooh, a god of debt.
There is a god of greed.
No, but a
That's not one
god
of
of
the betrayer
debt
gods.
is so excellent.
I
Like,
feel like Avandra would probably oversee the collection of debts with all the interaction with gamblers.
but just a god that is in debt.
Oh, a god in debt, not somebody
Yeah, the
above
god of
collecting
debt, not like a collector god, but like I am the god of debt. I am in debt, and so in an effort to get rid of their debt, they pass it on to the mortals.
Oh, I hate that.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's
Wow.
why that dwarf is collecting all that platinum for.
Oh, I have some information about
What is that one called?
Erkin, the guy, the platinum guy, who is discussing Task.
Task, another
Yes,
off-brand god.
We can talk about, we'll talk about Task, Chatwater. We'll get there. I have a section about Task and Erkin somewhere in my notes.
Yeah, I don't know much about Io.
We are only really learning stuff about Io. So Io was also known as the All Mother. So they were Creasine. I'm going to use they because I think I think it's she, but I think she or they. I will use those pronouns. As a creator god, and is depicted as a light dragon. So a dragon that is like all made of light and shimmery and pretty. So the symbol was a pearlescent disc. It's like a circular disc that is pearly, and mainly worshipped through the north of Katona, but was quite widespread as well. Kokanee came across a statue of Io with the statues of Melora, Corellin, and Saloon in the Alderdon woods, so stretches across the continents. And she is they considered the mother of all dragon kind. So she is the mother of Bahamut and Tiamat. Those are her children. So we've had some interaction with Io. We went to the Forbidden Tomb, which was in the city of Amonkhet, the old ancient city of Amonkhet on the peninsula, when we fought Zesperia, after we fought her, and we came across the Orphea, which was a sarcophagus-ish thing of some kind, guarded by these kind of pearlescent dragon statues with glowing eyes. And to open the Orphea and to gaze upon the Orphea, we needed to kill Velsum, consecrate and reforge the hand of Io, and then present that to the.
Now you're frozen and I lost you.
Or we can gaze
We got
upon it.
consecrate.
So
We got
I don't
consecrate.
inside that.
Start again. We lost you.
Oh,
we have
I'm
to
so
rehand
sorry.
the hand
We
of
have to
no. It's
Yes,
the
okay.
internet. Reforge hand
The
of Io,
internet.
consecrate it, and then we give it to the blank.
Orphea.
The Orphea.
Yes, so we have to go back to the Forbidden Tomb, put the item there, and then see if they'll accept it, and then we can gaze upon the Orphea. So, who knows what that is? And that's really all we know. We know Io is dead, like a dead god, like not worshipped anywhere that we know of. That's basically all we know about Io. And then
Do
we
you
are
know
on.
who killed her?
No idea. Tim knows, but we don't know. I'm always like, Tim tends to sometimes drop these like little lore tidbits, and then he'll look at me and be like, you didn't know that. I shouldn't have told you that. I'm like, it's fine. I'll take it back.
I imagine if they are the mother of dragons, then they made Bahamut,
Yes.
in addition to all the chromatic dragons, which tend to be pretty fucking evil. So I'm willing,
Yes.
if Tiamat exists,
Yes.
which I think he does, I'm
She
willing
does,
to bet
yes.
Tiamat fucking ate Io, because that's how dragons roll.
Maybe.
Like,
My sense is that, like, okay, my theory is that inside the Orphea is another dragon god egg. That's my theory. Because Bahamut, lawful good.
yeah,
Tiamat, chaotic evil.
just a true neutral. Hey
True
guys,
neutral dragon. Just
It's
dragon
me.
god in the
It's
it's
middle.
me, indifferent Steve. Everything is.
Anything you want us to do? No, it's all
No,
good.
everything's pretty okay.
It's pretty good.
Like
I'm
I'm just
super
gonna stay. Do
neutral.
you want to come out? No, it's actually pretty good in here.
No, it's pretty good
Just
in
stay.
here. Yeah,
My
maybe.
symbol is a beige, borderless swath of color.
The door was actually unlocked the whole time. I just didn't leave.
It just was here, you know. So that's Io, and that's what we know there. And then we have the 4 primordial titans. So there is, for the sake of time, I'm gonna rattle through them. There
I
is
think
Garrix.
We did them when we did
Oh yeah.
Groombar.
Oh yeah, we did. I'll go very quickly through them. I have a little bit of stuff about them. Garrix, Garrix is worshipped in
Fire.
like, yeah, the fire primordial. He has ties to Cinderfall. There is the high priestess at the King's Cauldron is named High Priestess Thecoria Doomwing. So fun link to the name Doomwing. When we were fighting Zakis and the Agents of Chaos, the Dragonborn was named Syndral Doomwing. So some relation there to the High Priestess, but we don't know.
With a last name like Doomwing, you know he's a bad guy.
Right? Yeah,
Just-
Syndral was the worst. Shot Spooky with a ballista. Not good.
Tight.
And the symbol of Garrix is a 2-headed dragon with one head being red and one head being gold. We have Estitia, who is the water primordial. She was doomed to the deep for her role in the Dawn War. We may have seen her when we went through the water plane, and her symbol is a curled wave. There's Akkadi, who is allowed to live in the airplane, and we have been to the Temple of the Winged Serpent in Saral many times. She is the high priestess of Akkadi, and she is depicted as like a serpent that is feathered with wings. And her symbol is a cloud, and Callie actually has the symbol tattooed on her hand. Then there is Grumbar, the stone wolf. So he has now been freed from his wanderings in the wastes and now sleeps at the bottom of the chasm outside the scar. He is the earth primordial, and the symbol is a wolf head that is on its side, so that it kind of looks like a mountain range. Yeah. And there is also one more primordial titan. There's a couple other lesser titans that we know about. There is the lesser titan Ishfael, who was the ice titan. So he died during the last days of the Dawn War. Arathis killed him. And his death actually caused Arathis' entrapment into the ice plane. But we'll talk about that when we talk about the Dawn War. We're getting there. And then there is also Ubtao. So Ubtao is a lesser titan of jungles. And he slumbers in the jungles of Chlor. And he is actually one of the seals that keeps the Chained Oblivion locked away. The only one that we didn't have a chance to go get or have eyes on before we actually fought Velsum. And we'll talk about Ubtao and his role in the Dawn War when we get there next week.
Important question. Is there a lesser titan of the ooze elemental plane?
There
Yes.
may be an lesser ooze titan.
100%.
Probably.
His name is Slimodius. He's real juicy.
He's like the guy
Giannis,
from. He's
now
like
that
what's
you've
his
said
name
it,
from
he
Ghostbusters?
exists. Oh yeah.
I feel like to
What's his
compare
name?
him to Slimer is
That's
a
it.
Slimer.
disservice. I feel like
To who?
this guy's to Slimodius. Slimodius is way oozier. Like if it were possible for someone to simultaneously be described as juicy and crunchy, Like,
Juicy and crunchy. Those are the worst adjectives to put together.
well, that's Slamodius. Slamodius likes to
Ugh.
party, and no one likes to party with Slamodius.
Juicy and
Oh.
crunchy is like something Taco Bell would put together in an ad.
Is Slimodius the Taco Bell of gods?
Oh,
You've heard it here first.
100%. Okay, in that case, there needs to be another off-brand god who like he shares space with, because it's always like a KFC Taco Bell combined.
Colonel Sanders,
Who's the Titan of Dust?
no,
Like,
Colonel Sanders.
yeah.
Colonel Sanders is the god of fried chicken.
well, no, but he's not a primordial. I'm like,
Oh,
nobody likes
Primordial.
ooze. Look, we can have ooze and mud or ooze and dust, but I like ooze and dust because those two would not want to
No.
be together.
They just
And
don't mix. They're like, dust is so hydrophobic and it just
Yeah.
I'm trying to
not
be
working
dusty
together.
over here.
The primordial of dust, the Titan of Dust, her name is Huffa. Her name is
yeah, well, it is
Huffa.
now.
She's the primordial.
Tim's just
of
out there taking
Titan
so
of
many
Dust,
notes.
and
that's so
she's
funny.
just all dandruff. It's just
Her punishment for any role she's
Scalp,
had in
head
anything
to
is
toe.
having to hang out with Slimodius all the time. That's it.
And
That's her
Slimodius
punishment.
always
That's
just
the whole
wants.
thing.
Slimodius always wants to do something, but never actually wants to leave the house. He's like that type of dude who's like, "Oh, we got to make a night of it." It's like, "You want to go out? I don't want to put on pants." Like that's Slimodius's vibe.
Well,
Huffa-
Godfather's on television. Let's just stay in, guys.
Just
Have you
stay
seen
in.
this? Have you seen? And like Huffeth just really is just real introvert energy. Like she
I
just wants
guarantee
to.
you, if we ever go to the dust plane, I guarantee you now the patron god or like the primordial of the dust plane will be named Hafeth. Like
Huffeth.
that's
It's
Hafeth, however you spell
Huffeth,
that.
2 F's, and then it's THHHHH. Like Huffeth.
Hafeth.
Like if your mouth isn't
The
dry
sound
by the time you finish saying it, you're not saying it right.
you're not
Huffeth.
saying it right. I feel like that
You
is
have
the
to take a
sound
breath after
that
the name.
it's the sound of when you like blow dust off of
Yeah.
something that's really dusty. It's like,
Yeah. Huffeth. Huffeth.
I love that. I know we were supposed to talk all about the Dawn War tonight, but in true Chatwater fashion, we did not get there.
We got something
so
way
we
better.
will-
We got like philosophies personified by gods. That's
Yes.
juicy. That's what
Listen,
we want to get into.
Super
Guys, if
juicy
we-
and crunchy. Juicy
If
and
we
crunchy
got
together.
to
Slamodius.
everything, then we would have to change the little thing that says we'll get there, and like none of us have time to change the
None of us have
graphic.
time to change.
So
We'll
as a
change the graphic.
rule,
We'll get to the graphic
can-
changing. We'll get there.
like if we get there, we'll get to changing the graphic, but
Right.
we're never gonna get there. It's a good thing because otherwise we would burn through this stuff and there would be no show.
Well, see,
So-
my sense with getting like what I wanted to do is, or my thought with this show was like, we need to, before we actually start talking about the arcs of the stuff that we've been through as Blackwater, we need to set up the world first. So, like 2 weeks ago, we talked about Teris and the world, so you all got an introduction to that, and now we're talking about the gods and religion, and we're also like peppering in everybody's characters, so you get like little bits of their backstory, and then we actually get to touch on like the arcs of the campaign, because there has been, I think, like 6 arcs
But I think
so far.
we underestimated truly how much lore Tim, and a little bit of, I blame Em for this as well because she's such a lore junkie. I
Yes.
think the Nipthysicate lore is like 90% of your book, but
Yeah.
I think we
Yeah.
underestimated truly how much lore you guys came up with. And
Yes.
so in order to cover that all before we get to the arcs, but I mean, it's all really good stuff. It's all super interesting stuff, all takes on existing lore, all sort of like new stuff.
Yes.
But yeah,
We also
I hope
have
you
some we have some sessions coming up too. I'm looking at our like Sean probably doesn't want to know this. I want to tell the viewers out there, Sean, you need to like plug your ears first.
I don't have to plug them. I'll just.
You just take them out. Yeah. So for everyone else out there, we're going to be having some episodes coming up about some of our favorite NPCs that we talk about all the time. And we're going to talk about who they are, how we know them, when we first met them. We're going to also be having some other guests come on. Tim's going to come on and do a guest episode. And then once we kind of all get through those, then we're going to start talking about character or like arcs arcs of the campaign. The early days, the Elemental Chaos, the Feywild arc, the Barmwitch arc, all of those ones. And then we'll just a delight. Okay, Sean, you can put your stuff back in now. You can put back in now. Yes, you. Yeah, so we'll get there eventually. I'm so happy that you all are on this lore journey with me. This makes me
This is great.
just makes me so happy. Yeah.
I'm glad you guys enjoy it as much as we do. We will be back on Saturday at 8 p.m. regular time for next session. And then the following Monday, of course, for another episode of Chatwater. You guys, I wish we could tell you all of the wonderful, exciting things we've got going on in the background. But all I can tell you is it's going to be awesome. If it's half as awesome as we think it is, it's still going to be pretty awesome. So stay tuned. I don't think we're that much further off of announcing it. I can't tell you exactly when we'll be announcing it, but it is definitely soon.
It's going to be so exciting.
It's very exciting. It's very exciting. Thank you for joining us. It's so lovely having you guys listen
every
to
Monday.
us ramble.
So nice.
We enjoy it. We do it even if there was no one watching, but it's so much better with doing it with you guys. So
also, I realized what our thing is when we say good night to everybody. In the main Blackwater campaign, we do the goat salute. Here we have always, like, I've been watching the old episodes, we blow kisses, and I like that.
Do.
I think that's what we do on this show now. We blow kisses now. Yeah.
So if you don't catch those kisses, you're not welcome, and you don't come next week. No, I'm joking.
That means I have to blow enough kisses for everybody. Okay.
No, it's virtual. It splits once it goes through
virtual kisses.
Through the
it's like
internet
a prism.
tubes. It's like a prism. Exactly.
I love that.
Thank you for joining us. Have a great night. Have a great week, and we look forward to seeing you guys on Saturday. Bye.
One kiss for you and
love you.
one for the person standing behind you.
Mm-hmm.